Music is not working. All right. Well, welcome to a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host. And as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. How you doing, Seth?
I'm good.
All right. This episode is sponsored by Bluetti, a leading provider of portable power stations, solar generators, and energy storage system, including its new hands-free all-in-one portable power station backpacks. You can learn more about them in the show notes. But we're going to have a little bit more to say about them also later on the show, so stay tuned for that. And this week's episode is also sponsored by our friends at All Set Auto, North America's leader in paint protection and restyling, offering colored wraps, paint protection, window tints, ceramic coating, and more exclusively for EVs. They are the national EV expert when it comes to wraps and paint protection. So they have a bunch of franchise all over the US and some in Canada too. So check them out. We're going to talk a little bit more about them later on the show. All right, we have plenty to talk about today. Let's jump right in. We'll start with the biggest article we had this week that got a lot of people talking. I mean, over 300 comments on this article announced this week. It's I brought up the word fraud when it comes to Hardware 3, and it got people to freak out. We talked a little bit about that last week following the We Robot event and the little mishap that happened with Elon saying that he didn't want to get nuance. He confirmed that Robotaxi level will come to Cybertruck with a quick yes, but instead of they saying yes to Hardware 3, he said, let's not get nuance, when he could have just said yes and move on. Since then, there was a video that came out from Kim Java. I'm not going to play it here, because I think we're having some audio issue from things that are coming out of the screen. But in short, it's a quick video with Lars Moravi and Franz von Halsen, the chief designer and the VP of engineering for vehicles at Tesla. And in that video, Kim more directly asked these guys about Hardware 3, if it's going to achieve a robotaxi level of self-driving. And Lars and Franz basically say, yeah, it will have all cars. They say all cars. And so people are like, all right, Tesla is still confirming that. However, let's be quite honest. These are not really the guys that I would ask that question at Tesla. No disrespect to them. Like, I have a lot of respect for those guys. But Franz is obviously chief designer. He does the design. And Lars, VP of engineering, you would think he would be all over the FSD program. But he's not. The FSD program is overseen by Ashok El-Sawani, and he's a direct report to Elon. So the whole FSD program sort of bypassed Lars. And in the very same video, when Kim asked them, like, will I have robo-level self-driving, robotaxi level self-driving on my 2018 Model 3, Lars asked her, does it have Hardware 3 or Hardware 4? Which, already kinds of highlights that he's not that much into that world, because Hardware 4 on 2018 Model 3 doesn't exist.
Never existed.
Never existed. So yeah, I didn't put a lot. I put it in my article just for fairness, like it's out there, but I wouldn't put too much weight on that. I'll put much more weight on things that we discussed in the past, that like the current level of the data that we have on FSD showing, a need for a roughly 1000x improvement in miles between disengagement, and the fact that Tesla shifted its strategy from making Hardware 3 a priority and making the software work on there. And Elon saying last year that the software will lag about 6 months behind on Hardware 4 versus Hardware 3, to shifting that the completely other way this year, where now they admit that they need to optimize the code on Hardware 3 to make it work. So Hardware 4 is ahead now. But the other thing that I learned this week that changed a lot of my way of thinking, and why I introduced the word fraud in it, because here's the thing. Let's be clear. If you say that you're going to deliver something and it doesn't work, it's not necessarily fraud. You might have really think that it could have worked and it didn't work, and that's it, and then you make it right and you move on. But if you know that it's not working and that it will never work, and you keep selling it, or you keep selling that promise to people, then that's where the word fraud needs to come into the discussion, because you're selling something that you claim you're going to deliver, but you can't. And that's from a discussion that I had with well-known Tesla hacker Green earlier this week, where Green actually found out that starting late last year, so around the time that Tesla shifted its focus from hardware 3 to hardware 4 first software, Tesla started using both neural nets processors on the hardware 3 to run the code, to run FSD, basically. So originally, the idea was to have one NN processors to run the FSD and the other NN processor as a redundancy backup, because for level 4, level 5, arguably for level 3 too, but that like the guidance is not exactly clear, because level 3, you need to account for a reasonable period of time for a switchover between automatic driving and manual driving. So that's if something craps, there's not a reasonable time to change over. Though with my discussion with Green, we agreed that technically you could still run, because there's still things that can run if one of the nodes craps. There's still things that can run, and you could probably run some kind of basics, lane keeping, and active cruise control that could, allow maybe for this turnover. Anyway, but level 4 or 5, without any compute redundancy, is just not going to happen. And now, with my discussion with Green, since last year, Tesla started running part of the neural nets on the second node, most likely because it needs to, because there's not enough compute power on the board otherwise. And he says that if one of them craps out, now you just have visualization. So you still have the FSD visualization, but you cannot run the car. So now that we know that, the only thing that can, and I'm really digging deep here, is that possibly that Tesla keeps improving. Again, we need 1,000x improvement here in miles between disengagement. Let's say that Tesla has an incredible year of improvement there, and it gets there, and then it starts optimizing the codes like crazy, and it's able to run this whole thing on one node on hardware 3. Impossible scenario almost. But then you also have to be a little bit more realistic when looking this is like a dream scenario here. If you're a little bit more realistic about the situation, hardware 3 is a 5-year-old computer now. There's not a lot of 5 to 7-year-old tech that stays supported in this day and age. Seth, you reported a ton on phones and computer and all that. After a certain age, the tech companies just reduce their support for it, or kill it completely. Correct?
Yeah, and we're not even talking about we're talking about a phone or a computer, not something that's riding around in a car, bouncing around and all that other stuff.
That too, there's automotive grade level stuff. So it's 5 years old. And so it's entering this era right now of obsolescence, basically, that's coming soon. And what's crazy about it is Tesla is still even not just selling the dream of full self-driving on this computer, but it's also selling the actual upgrade. So we talked to a few Tesla owners, early Model 3 owners, who still have the hardware 2.5, and they just never bought FSD, so they never got the computer upgrade. And Tesla is still selling that to those people. And we looked it up; they were selling it with the same language too as the old language, the old full self-driving capability language that says that eventually this will become full self-driving. So Tesla is charging $1,000 for the self-driving computer hardware 3 installation, and $2,000 to upgrade if you already had enhanced autopilot, because that then adds up to $8,000, or roughly, basically. So the way I see it right now, I think Tesla is basically trying to reduce its liability with hardware 3, because it knows it can deliver it for the reason we just discussed, and it keeps bringing back this full self-driving transfer thing that we discussed last week. Tesla brought it back again, and the first time it was supposed to be this one-time amnesty that Elon says, he basically Tesla owners and media like put pressure on Elon to even do it in the first place, because he said he wouldn't want to do it. And then he said, all right, I'll do it this one time amnesty. Let's get him done. And then they brought it back 2 other times. And the last time Elon said, okay, this one is one last quarter. He said one last quarter, we'll do it. And then sure enough, they brought it back last week for a fourth time. They brought it back. And the way I see it is like, this is a way for Tesla to reduce its liability, because these hardware 3 owners switch over their cars, get FSD on the newer hardware. But then the idea is like, yeah, but this is the same. You're still selling. You're selling back after that the used Model 3 with the FSD. But if you look at the used FSD, Tesla is selling it back with this new language that Tesla is using now for the last year, the supervised full self-driving, which made it sound the language in that you could make the argument, a lawyer certainly could, that Tesla is actually selling the supervised full self-driving and not unsupervised full self-driving, which is pretty wild. So yeah. But then I have to admit that this full self-driving capability stuff and hardware 2.5 to hardware 3, that is actually adding liability to Tesla's FSD program. But I don't know about you, Seth, but I have a feeling that this is kind of just an oversight from Tesla to not have updated that stuff, because I would assume that probably not a lot of people are currently updating from 2.5 to 3 at this point. Like everyone that would have probably already did. So Tesla probably just didn't update those pages. Are you on board with me on that? Oh, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I think that's likely. I don't know why else. Seems like a typo.
So my argument with that is like, if Tesla really knows that to be the case, that hardware 3 is not deliverable, you cannot deliver unsupervised self-driving on hardware 3. We need to start talking about fraud here. It's simple as that. All right. Full self-driving has another issue that just came out today. NHTSA announced that they are launching a new investigation into full self-driving as a whole, and they have to do it by car. So they said like 2.4 million vehicles, which is like all Tesla vehicles that are capable of full self-driving in the US. The investigation is specific to reduce visibility conditions when using FSD beta or FSD now FSD supervised. So the Office of Defect Investigation has identified 4 standing general order. So standing general order is a report that the automakers themselves submit to NHTSA. They have to track every crash, every accident involving the ADAS system, an advanced automated driving system, assist system. And Tesla has more of these reports than anybody else. I posted on Twitter earlier today, like they have like 2,000 of them, 2,200, something like that. And the second with the most is like Honda with 150 or something. But now they identify 4 of them that specifically have to do with crashes after entering an area of reduced roadway visibility condition with FSD beta, FSD supervised, engage. In these crashes, the reduced roadway visibility arose from conditions such as sun glare, fog, or airborne dust. In one of the crashes, the Tesla vehicle fatally struck a pedestrian. One initial crash in these conditions involving a reported injury. So one fatality, 1 injury because of those crash. And basically, NHTSA saw that they thought that there was a link between all these crashes, and that link was the reduced visibility. So they want to make sure that Tesla's product here is actually able to deploy that, to indulge that, because if they're not, they need to make that clear, even possibly a recall. So the investigation is trying to assess these 3 points here: the ability of FSD engineering controls to detect and respond appropriately to reduce roadway visibility conditions, whether any similar FSD crashes have occurred in reduced roadway visibility condition, and if so, the contributing circumstances for those crashes, and any updates or modification from Tesla to FSD system that may affect the performance of FSD in reduced roadway visibility condition in particular. This review will assess the timing, purpose, and capabilities of any such update, as well as Tesla's assessment of their safety impact. So they want to know what Tesla is doing about this. And this is not too surprising. Like, this is some issues that we've known for a while. Like, the sun glare is a real one. Like, they're because of the front-facing cameras, where they sit. Sometimes the sun will hit it in this very specific way that will affect the capabilities. Like, I've seen it happen several times in my car, and fog, the same. Fog also, I've hit the fog a few times where the system craps out completely and gives you like the alert that to take control. So for the most part, when you do enter some kind of weather conditions that reduce visibility, the system will tell you like, hey, I detect some kind of degraded weather. I detect some, tougher weather condition, and the system may be degraded. It's some kind of language. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but this is basically the language that the car sends you. And for the most part, what I do in those times, like if I assess myself, like I always do, the real conditions, and if it's something that like I wouldn't have a second thought about it as a human driver who's been driving in Quebec where there's pretty bad weather conditions pretty often, I will give it a shot. I will like, all right, let's see what it can do. But if it's something a little bit too hardcore, I'm like, all right, I'll try by myself, no problem. And yeah, for the most part, it does not handle these conditions very well. Sometimes, like heavy rain, it's not too bad. It does pretty good. But other than that, fog, it does terrible. And yeah, some sun glare, and sun glare can be very surprising because for you as the driver, your eyes are not positioned exactly at the same level as the camera. So sometimes you don't get it. You're like, I don't get the sun glare. So why would the system like craps out? And this is where things can get a little bit more dangerous, really.
We've talked about this in the past, though. Like,
Mhm.
When we're talking about self-driving computers, when conditions are great, they do pretty well. When things get bad, they degrade pretty quickly. That's
Yeah.
one of the problems with only doing visual and not having LiDAR and other products.
Yeah. And to be fair, LiDAR also has issues with things like fog, for
Mhm.
example. But yeah, good backup to have. And also the fact like a lot of Tesla influencers in the FSD space that keep like promoting FSD, like this god level driving, experiment driving, repeating all the Elon's favorite phrases when talking about FSD. A lot of them are in California, where the weather is most often than not pretty great. So like the experience can be very different between people. Same thing with Texas. Not everywhere in Texas, but like a lot of people are in Texas now too in the Tesla world, and generally speaking, I think they get better weather than in the Northeast, for example. Do you want to talk a little bit about our friend at Blue Eddy?
Yes. Sorry, let me get that up. All right. Today's episode is sponsored by Blue Eddy, a leading provider of sustainable energy solutions specializing in portable power stations, solar generators, and energy storage systems. As a provider of dependable and portable energy solutions, Blue Eddy has become an industry leader with a presence in 100 plus countries and is trusted by millions of customers worldwide. Its portfolio of clean, portable energy solutions continues to grow, offering its customers viable options for all uses and budgets. That portfolio now includes Blue Eddy's latest technology, hands-free, all-in-one backpack power stations. Available in two sizes with 42 or 60 liters of gear storage and either 268 or 512 watt hours of energy capacity, these hands-free outdoor backpacks offer enough storage and energy to explore the outdoors for 1 to 5 days at a time. Each model comes equipped with 5 output ports accessible from the side of the pack, as well as a foldable solar panel to replenish on the go using the sun's power alone. Learn more about the capabilities of the hands-free series and other portable power products at bluettipower.com or the link in the YouTube description. Thank you, Blue Eddy, for sponsoring, and that's BLUETTIPOWER.com.
Yeah, this is especially for like I'm thinking about like outdoors videographer
Yeah,
and like my friend
drones.
Eric as like goes out there and like take pictures, and you need like battery backup cameras and everything, and goes camping. And this is like the perfect product for that. Pretty cool. All right, let's go back to the news here. Oh yeah, after on the last week's show, when we talked about the Robotaxi, we were a little bit confused about the naming scheme here because Cybercab, Robotaxi were used alternatively, and then and then when the Robovan, which was what people were calling it,
Robovan.
Right, and then Elon called it like Robovan or something. Like it's several times too. So we're like so confused. And the website said Robovan. So we're like, what is it? Now we found out that Tesla has filed for two, well, at least actually four different trademark applications, but they're for two specific names. So Robotaxi appears to be the name of the cybercab, this vehicle right here. That's a Robotaxi. It's sticking based on the trademark application. So the trademark is both for the vehicle itself, and it's also refers to like any kind of like commercial use in terms of like vehicle rental, ride sharing, and all that. So it seems pretty clear. But the Robovan is actually a Robobus. So it's going to be called Robobus, and they have two different trademarks, especially for that. So the Robobus with 20 seats or 14 seat, 20 capacity, whatever it is, that looks like a Art Deco bus. That's so low to the ground. That's crazy. All right, so good. It's important for us when we write articles, like to have the name of the vehicle. Like we like to keep track of the name. So
It is
when there's
helpful.
confusion, it is helpful. All right, Cybertruck. We have some Cybertruck news. The backlog appear to be depleted now because there's no reservation process anymore, at least in the US. So we reported like last month Tesla switch, stopped doing the Foundation series and switched the regular version, which cut the price by $20,000. And that's what the package of the Foundation series was having. And basically restarted because you could, for a small period of time and during the summer, Tesla had stopped going through the reservation process for the Foundation series too, and anyone could order a Foundation series, but that didn't last too long because not that many people want to order $100,000 truck. Then Tesla switched to the non-Foundation series, starting at $80,000, but still only going through the reservation process. But in the last few days, we're like, it looks like Tesla is working through that pretty fast because we saw like people that reserved the truck earlier this year and were getting invited to order. And a lot of them were not ordering. And now anyone can go on Tesla's Cybertruck, on Tesla's website, and order a Cybertruck non-Foundation series for $80,000, which means that Tesla is basically, in the US at least, completely depleted its backlog. However, there is some things that worked against the Cybertruck in this case here. So the $80,000 price tag for the dual motor Cybertruck aims at getting access to the federal tax credit for trucks, for electric trucks. And Tesla is still not eligible for it. Or there's something going on. We don't know. It's still not on the website as an eligible product. So that probably stops a lot of people from ordering because they just don't want to leave $700 on the table. At the same time, just how many people are ordering an $80,000+ truck that fits the requirement, the eligibility requirement for the tax credit? I don't know. So I'm sure this has an impact on this, but I don't know how big. It's hard to tell. Also, the Cybertruck is not eligible for Tesla's FSD transfer. So that is also pissing off a few people right now, that they're like, yeah, they are upgrading their current Tesla with FSD to the Cybertruck, but they are losing FSD on it. And a lot of people don't want to pay for FSD again. Like they got once, they don't want to get got again. So yeah, the Cybertruck now is this is interesting. Like this is supposed to be a 250,000 trucks a year program here at Tesla. That's what the production capacity that Tesla deployed. Now we are at, it's not exactly clear with the production rate and everything. With the Tesla was getting close to 30,000 vehicles. It's in production for about a year now. They produced about 30,000 as per the last recall. Now probably a little bit higher than that. So between 30 and 40,000, I would assume. So Tesla went into its entire million vehicle backlog, reservation backlog in the US, approximately that.
Wasn't it 2 million at one point?
Yeah, but I'm saying US only.
Right. So
deliveries are just starting now in Canada. So
I mean, I imagine that a large percentage of the people who reserved them were reserving $39,000 Cybertrucks, which,
according to the tally, they were not. According to the tally, most people were going for the dual motor and tri-motor.
Really?
Yeah. of course, that was when those were like $60,000 and $70,000 price, not
Right.
$80,000 and $100,000. So that changed things. And now there is still a cheaper version coming. Is $60,000 the single motor one? Was supposed to be the price of the base one. That is currently not available, but like some people might be waiting for that this time because of the pricing of these other one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Sylvain says, still waiting for my normal Cybertruck.
what's a normal Cybertruck?
I think that's the base model.
That's the base
I mean,
model.
there's no such thing as a normal one, but
On the website they don't show the no, there's no really pricing for the cheaper one. In my head, it's like $60,000. If someone in the comments can correct me, yeah, there's still only the Cyber Beast and dual motor listed. But there's supposed to be a cheaper one coming later, but still not $40,000, so closer to $60,000 if I remember correctly.
inflation.
Yeah, that's true, but it's still pretty wild that they went through like 1 million reservation backlog with about 40,000 deliveries. Like, so we were always saying that with $100 deposit, it was never the greatest show of interest that reservation holders were showing there. It was pretty mild. So, but still, it sounds like they went through it pretty fast. Obviously, there was a few disappointing thing about it. The price, of course, the range, the need for the extended battery pack, and all that. That changed a lot of things, I think, for people. And competition. Silverado, Lightning, Rivian, the Sierra that we're gonna talk about a little bit later. That's pretty cool too. That are also like premium options that don't look like the Cybertruck, but yeah, I think that in Q3, Tesla was already the best-selling electric pickup truck in the U.S. I think it probably will be in Q4 too. But let's be honest, the only reason that Tesla was able to achieve that in Q3 and most likely this quarter too is because of this reservation backlog. Now you remove the reservation backlog, you take into account everything that's happening with Tesla, everything that's happening with Elon. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing next year some discounts for Cybertruck, at least FSD transfer. Maybe some discounts. Obviously, the access to the federal tax credit, which I would assume is coming, will help. By how much? I don't know because, like I said, we're still talking about an $80,000 truck here, and the federal tax credit does include limitation in terms of income and all that. So, all right. This also gave a little bit of an update on Powershare, which is the bidirectional charging capacity of the Cybertruck. It englobes a lot of things. It englobes directly the ability to send power out of the back of the truck, but it's more specifically it's generally referring to the home charging capacity. So the ability to plug it into your home and not only to charge a vehicle, but to send energy from the vehicle to the grid to your home. Truck has been delivered for almost a year now. And Tesla has started Powershare installations, but a lot of the owners were complaining that even though Tesla was doing the installation, the features were not necessarily working, so they were not being able to be turned on. And that's not always Tesla's fault, to be honest, because sometimes you have to have your local electric utility approval before doing it. So sometimes that happens, but does appear to on Tesla's side that things were not ready software-wise or whatever. So Tesla has now given an update on the timelines for the power shares depending on your different configuration. So it says that in general, enabling Powershare to your Cybertruck may take up to a week. But they said if you have solar in your home backup circuit, Powershare will be enabled by the end of the year. If you have been installed with backup switch in an approved utility, Powershare will be enabled also by the end of the year. So these two configurations are coming in the next 2 months. But then they said if you have a Powershare installation with power walls, this won't be enabled until next year. So you're gonna have to wait for that. And that's probably the best combination here, having the Powerwall and Powershare together.
Yeah, and you can always just plug in the 240 volt to your a generator backup plug. Like most people have a generator backup plug who have a system like this. So day
Yeah,
one.
there's alternative to make use of your battery for like essential,
Mhm.
but the Powershare setup basically acts like a power wall and makes the whole experience a little bit smoother. So you on your electric panel, you already have specific breaker that are backed up. So
Right.
whenever an outage happens, it switches automatically. And if your Cybertruck is plugged in, then can get some energy out of that big Cybertruck battery pack.
And eventually Tesla Energy will be able to use it as one of the nodes on their, their big virtual power plant.
VPP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be a big difference, I think.
So
Cybertrucks
we have someone on Facebook, Ronan Sandoval, that keeps commenting, but his comments don't show up. So I'm just letting you know so you don't comment for nothing because the comments are not showing up. I don't know why. All right, let's talk a little bit about our friend at Allset this time. They were also sponsoring this week's episode of the Electrek Podcast.
All right. Today's episode is also brought to you by Allset Auto. Allset Auto is North America's leader in paint production and restyling services, offering colored wraps, paint production film, window tints, ceramic coatings, and more exclusively on EVs. In fact, they have worked on over 7,000 electric vehicles, including having already wrapped over 300 Cybertrucks in colored PPF. The company currently offers the largest selection of colored PPF in the industry with more than 25,000 options in glass, matte, metallic, and even color shifting. Allset Auto currently operates in 15 markets across the US and Canada and is seeking to award new franchise opportunities to qualified candidates who are passionate about the EV industry. To find a location near you or to get the free digital franchising brochure and market analysis, visit allsetauto.com. That's Tesla backwards, ALSET auto.com. Allset Auto, we don't protect cars, we protect EVs.
Awesome. Thanks, Allset, for sponsoring this week's episode of the Electrek Podcast. All right, moving on. There was a little bit of a shakeup, of leadership shakeup at Tesla. Well, it sounds like it happened last week, but it sort of came out this week. First off, Ahmed Afshar, who was generally seen as basically Tesla's chief of staff. Officially, he was director of the CEO's office, CEO being Elon, at Tesla, but he also worked at Elon's other companies. He worked for Elon more than he worked for Tesla, if that makes sense, though he did work for Tesla for sure. He has a very interesting career trajectory. He studied biomedical engineering at UC Irvine, then found himself working at medical equipment manufacturer St. Jude Medical from 2011 to 2017. And then in 2017, he did a very short stint as a manager of a high voltage operation in operation business system at healthcare giant Abbott in LA. And after this short stint, he ended up in Elon's office. And he started out as a manager of the office of the CEO. Back then, it was Sam Teller that was the chief of staff of Elon. That was like Elon's right-hand man, basically, in the office of the CEO. But then Sam left in 2019. And then Ashfar, according to my sources, was seen as like taking up a lot of his responsibility and his role working for Elon. Elon at one point credited Afshar. Let's call it Ahmed. Let's go with his first name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name there. Ahmed, he credited him as leading the construction project for Gigafactory Texas. But then in 2022, he got in some hot water at Tesla. There was this report, a few reports from Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal that said that he was on the verge of getting fired at Tesla over a specific issue, a specific project that someone, reportedly him, placed an order for special glass for a secret project. And the automaker's finance department flagged this, and it triggered an internal investigation. And according to reports, some people were fired over this, and Ahmed was reportedly next in line. And then later on, this special project and special glass was linked to Elon himself, which, linked to him, linked to his chief of staff, linked to Tesla supplier, where he was reportedly looking to build a glass house in Texas, near Tesla's Gigafactory in Austin. And this is a project for him. It was a glass house for him, but he used Tesla resources through other people, reportedly, to make this happen. Now, Elon has sort of denied this. Like he says, "Where's the glass house if this is true?" But then we learned in his biography, his authorized biography by Walter Isaacson, that he was looking to build a glass house project, and he approached an architect for it and all that. But then the project fell through. So yeah, that's why there's not a glass house, because that doesn't mean that this didn't happen also. So yeah, then Bloomberg reported that amid all this stuff, Ahmed sort of stopped working at Tesla and switched to SpaceX for a while. But now he's back at Tesla, and he's back in a pretty big way, because according to the Wall Street Journal, he's now vice president of operations in North America and Europe, and he's oversees all sales and manufacturing operation in those regions, which makes him one of the top executives at Tesla. That was actually a role that Tom Zhu was brought from China to the US last year to do. But we reported that earlier this year, we learned that Tom Zhu was sent back to China to focus on the operations there, which, China is the most important market for Tesla. So it's not necessarily a demotion or anything like that, but he was like, yeah, go back to China and make sure that we're okay there. And now it's Ahmed that's in charge of all these operations for Tesla in the US and Europe. Did I get that right? Yeah, apparently North America and Europe. In Europe. So that makes him literally one of the top executives at Tesla. Someone who's very close to Elon, and someone who's, has a very interesting career trajectory, to say the least. At the same time, there was a broader leadership shakeup. Yeah, we're having issues like embedding Twitter posts these days.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I wonder if you change the twitter.com to x.com.
Yeah, I try both every time, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I haven't keeping track of exactly how that works. But yeah, we have Ashok Eleswamy, who's been the longtime head of software for Tesla Autopilot and Full Self-Driving, has been promoted to vice president of Autopilot and AI software. So he's been, he's already been basically at that role as the head of that for the last 5 years, and he's been at Tesla for a decade. But now he's been promoted to vice president, because this is something that these are projects that Elon specifically is prioritizing at Tesla. So he's making him a top executive in charge of those projects. And same thing for Milan Kovac, who also had leadership roles in Autopilot and self-driving. But over the last 2 years, he moved to Optimus to lead the Optimus project. And now he's been made vice president, vice president of Optimus. So here you can clearly see that basically Elon has made it clear that Tesla is prioritizing autonomous driving and Optimus as its top project. So now the leader of those projects have been elevated at top leadership role at Tesla. And then his own protege, his chief of staff, is now the top executive in terms of operation in North America and Europe, which is pretty wild, because he has no automotive experience other than working under Elon, basically.
Well, I would note that working under Elon is probably not it's probably a good way to get experience in craziness. But also, I can't imagine working under Elon for too long. I don't think any human could probably do that too long.
Also, he started taking a leadership role after Sam left in 2019, and getting closer and closer to Elon from 2019 to now. What happened to Elon from 2019 to now?
Well, he went a little crazy.
Yeah, that, and a lot of people noted Tesla is not hiring a lot of top level people anymore. They're not bringing talent at the high executive level into the fold anymore. They are promoting within, which a lot of people are pointing to Tesla having to do, because Elon is hard to work with to start, but also these programs at Tesla, especially FSD, it would be potentially problematic to bring someone from the outside at a high level with high visibility into the program and have him stay and also like keep the same narrative that Tesla has been pushing. In other words, like not coming in and like, what are you guys been doing? And then, putting some red flags out there. So that's also a possible, theory around what's happening here. But an interesting shake-up in leadership for sure. All right, Tesla also gave us a quick, nice little closer look at the wireless charging pad that was first unveiled last week at the event. So we have this picture here now that give us a closer look at it, the charging pad itself. And also that's part of the video that they posted on X. Like this X post works now. Maybe it's just my posts that don't work. And we have this charging screen here that shows us a charging rate of 25 kilowatts. And it shows 56 minutes remaining on a 35% state of charge. So it tells us like this is not quite like DC fast charging level, but it's also high for a level 2 charging. And the interesting part is like from what the engineers were saying at the event, Tesla hasn't built a charge port on this thing other than the wireless charging connector. So this is the only way to charge this car. So this only way is probably going to be limited in terms of potential like of charge rate. But also what this screen is showing us is that the battery pack on this thing is not that big. Like if you do some like back of napkin math, it would mean something between 40 and 45 kilowatt hour of battery capacity, which would be the smallest on any Tesla ever produced. Technically, it was the 40 kilowatt hour Model S, but it was not really a 40 kilowatt hour Model S. It was 60 kilowatt hours. It was software locked, so it was not actually produced at 40 kilowatt hour. Which it's not crazy low for a vehicle of that size, 2 seater and all that. So I'm sure that Tesla probably could get around 200 miles of range with this. It's probably feasible, but it is pretty small. And all, but it sounds like you could charge it to 100% within an hour 20 if it's very low, and in this case 35% under an hour at the 25 kilowatt charge rate with this wireless charger. So it's not, it's feasible. You charge once a day, once at night, and run this thing. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm talking like if they ever make this into an actual autonomous ride sharing system. I mean, I'm talking about the actual hardware. All right, last Tesla post before we move to non-Tesla news. And I want to remind you that we are live on all the platform. And if you are watching live, you can comment, and we're going to get into your comments in about 10, 15 minutes. We can answer your question about any of the topics we discussed today or any other topics in the EV world that you want us to get into. And if you do enjoy the podcast, we would appreciate if you can give us a like, a thumbs up, whatever it is on the app you're watching right now. It does help the show. It does help up, get a little boost with the algorithm. And if you're listening on your podcast app, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, or whatever, if you can give us a 5-star rating, that also helps the show a ton. And it's free to do, helps more than you think. We appreciate when you do. Tesla Semi is the vehicle program. I know that I've been labeled a Tesla hater, whatever, but I'm still hype about a lot of things at Tesla. It's just that since Elon has shifted Tesla into the self-driving world, a lot of the news around Tesla revolves around self-driving, and that's not always good. As if you follow reporting since, so I may sound a lot more negative about Tesla, but there's still a lot of things that I'm positive about, and Tesla Semi is one of them. And my reporting has not really changed on that. And I know, though, that because of Elon's shifts and Tesla's, we discussed the word fraud earlier about FSD and all that, like a lot of people are losing confidence in Tesla about the other programs like Tesla Semi, and that's fair. However, you have to look at the evidence. And in this case here, what's really cool is that we have DHL that's actually confirming a lot of the things about the Tesla Semi here, specifically its efficiency. So we learned that DHL, which ordered 10 Tesla Semi back in 2017, finally got their chance to test one or several. Actually, it sounds they shared earlier this week the result of a 2-week trial period that happened this summer with DHL Supply Chain USA, which is their partner in the US. DHL, I think, is bigger in Europe, I would assume. Said.
Yeah, they're German.
Yeah, they're German, right? So they took through look under the hood of the Tesla Semi. I'm quoting here, integrating the e-truck into 3,000 miles, 5,000 kilometers of. You see, they are very European of normal operation out of Livermore, California. The trial included one long haul of 390 miles, 625 kilometers, fully loaded with a gross combined weight of 75,000 pounds, 34 metric tons, confirming the Tesla Semi's ability to carry typical DHL payloads over a long distance in a single charge. So they say 390 miles here. The Tesla Semi has a supposedly range of 500 miles, but they did say that it confirms the capability of 500 miles of range. So I assume that there was some battery capacity left after 390 miles. That's why they're saying that. They also confirmed that throughout their 2 weeks trials, and including this long haul and full capacity, they achieved an efficiency of 1.72 kilowatt hours per miles on average, which is pretty awesome. That was the goal originally. Back in 2017, Tesla said 1.7. So, I mean, kudos for Tesla to, back then with the very early prototype and everything, figured that out. And now we 7 years later now at this point, achieving that. Though they also said we did report on another Tesla report earlier this last month that said that Tesla is actually achieving now 1.6 kilowatt hour per mile. But that might be like Tesla has a lot more data. They are running a bigger fleet themselves, and they are seeing 1.6 over time, and DHL over 2 weeks, so 1.7. So that's not crazy. But yeah, it's very good news that DHL is confirming that the Tesla Semi is delivering on those promises. Obviously, there's also the price that it's important. The price of the truck itself, that points to a very good cost of operation, but then you have to amortize the cost of the vehicle in there. And Tesla's never. I mean, they did release the price of the vehicle, but that was in 2017, and a lot of things have changed since. So I'm sure that they haven't disclosed a new price since. So I'm sure the price has changed since. But the goal now is to bring the vehicle to production, volume production next year at the new factory next to Gigafactory Nevada. And Elon this week insisted that the vehicle is going to get in production at Gigafactory Berlin too. No clear timeline on that, though. All right, moving on from Tesla news, GMC Sierra EV Denali. The GMC released, sent out a press release this weekend about new version of the vehicle and a cheaper one. So they said that the new 2025 model year has a new extended range version with 390 miles of range, which is very good. You still have the max range version for 460 miles of range, but the new max range is $10,000 cheaper. They say starting at exchange range starting at basically $92,000 now, while the max version starts at $100,000.
Those are big battery packs.
Yeah, I mean, you have 200 kilowatt hour usable battery capacity in that thing. It looks pretty awesome, I have to say. Like, money is no object right now. With all the pickup trucks available, I think that's the one I want.
They're having a drive event in San Francisco in a couple weeks.
Ooh, who's going to that? Ha, lucky bastard. I mean, I think I have a drive event at the same time.
Yeah, I think you're going to Europe or something, right?
Yeah, so I'm not complaining, but this is the one that I've been wanting to test for a while too. It
looks good too.
Yeah, it looks great. Specs on point, 250 kilowatt charging. And then they have also the new 84 models, which is the off-roading version. I'm not that familiar with the GMC off-roading lineup, but I think that's their like naming scheme from the off-roading vehicle. It looks great. It's more expensive than the Cybertruck. You have to give it that, but you get a lot more range.
Yeah, huge battery.
More functionality, faster charging. I would argue more luxury too. That the Sierra Denali is like very luxurious inside. All right, you got a nice update on your Rivian this week, Seth. You want to talk to us a little bit about this kind of a
Sure. Yeah, we got
costume that you can put on your car, basically?
Yeah, it is a costume. It's not like so. Originally, when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, wow, they're going to change all the the dials and the when you're driving it, it's going to feel like you're driving Kit." Not really. So
Mhm.
Knight Rider, Back to the Future, and like a haunted theme they have. Kind of fun. It's just a video that plays on the three screens. The two front screens and the one in the back. It's fun. There's there's a Back to the Future one. There's a flux capacitor in the back seat. That's kind of fun to look at. Play some good music. I don't know. Like it's a fun exercise. Clearly, no real value, and a lot of people I think in the comments were saying Rivian really needs to focus on like getting profitable. Like this is kind of a distraction. So I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just a neat little thing for Halloween. And they've done this for 2 years or 3. This will be their 3rd year, so something to look forward to every year, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that like the driving visualizations on the instrument cluster can change too, and you have like zombies. Let the pedestrians look like zombies now, and motorcycle drivers have like pumping heads and things like that. It's fun. I mean, I'm sure they didn't spend that much time on this. It's not like
no, and I'm sure they learned some cool stuff on that stuff as well. So,
yeah,
and it helps the brand.
All right, Lucid got his stock was diluted quite a bit this week because they announced a plan to sell 262.4 million shares of their common stock to raise how much cash? Okay, shortly. $1.5 billion, and these shares are going to be purchased, surprise, surprise, by Saudi's PIF fund, so the sovereign, the
Sovereign wealth fund?
monarchy's official investment arm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that the stock went crashing because obviously, I mean, I don't know why it's crashed that much. To be honest, I mean, for the dilution, I would assume, but we knew that they were going to raise cash. Like they were on the verge of needing some cash. They have a good second. At the end of the second quarter, they had $4.2 billion of liquidity, but they are still burning through that a lot because, like I said, Lucid needs their Gravity SUVs to hit the market. Because even though it's been doing not too bad with the Air, it's just not enough to have an electric sedan in the US. You need SUVs, you need pickup trucks, you need something else. But so far, we always said like Lucid is most likely going to succeed as long as the Saudis keep financing them enough to be able to fly on their own, which again the Gravity, and probably beyond the Gravity they're going to need to before getting profitable. They're going to need their second generation vehicles too. And now, so far, so good. The Saudis are still backing them. All right, one more piece of news before we jump into the comment section, everyone. BYD has launched the hatchback version, the GT version of their Seal electric vehicle, which is the entry-level BYD that is allowing them to achieve some pretty impressive volume in terms of EV sales. So this is the new version here. Hatchbacks are apparently pretty popular in China now with the younger generation. They do love the utility of it and the look. And they are going to love the price on that thing too. I didn't know BYD is like doing the version based on the range. So like the 505 is because that's 505 kilometers of range on this. It starts at 136,000 yen, which is just over $19,000 US equivalent, which is pretty wild. And then if you want like to have the long range version single motor, that's just $23,000, and you get 605 kilometers of range, which is more like 150 miles, around 50 kilometers more than I get in my Model 3. But this is LTC, of course, so I would assume it's closer to like 500 kilometers of range. And then the dual motor version costs $26,000. 4.9 seconds, 0 to 60. And it looks not bad too. Do we have the interior pictures too? Because I was just watching a video in China with the interior picture, and I was impressed. We'll have that here. Yeah, a little bit here. It's pretty well. I mean, I don't like the tariffs. I don't think, like, I'm a free market proponent, and I think we should go with whatever works best. But I have to admit, if it was not for the tariffs, it would be game over. I think the Chinese automakers will just take over the North American market, take over the European market. These prices are just crazy.
Yeah, and you kind of think about, like, well, what's worse, like having gas cars or having, China take over the auto market? Eh.
I mean, if they take it over with quality
EVs.
vehicles, I have no problem with it. And there was a time where there were plenty of $20,000 cars that were like not that bad, like new cars.
Yeah.
You could buy like a little Hyundai for accent for like $14,000, like a Toyota Corolla for like 25, whatever, 2025. Like it wasn't bad. But inflation and then the electrification at the same time kind of raised the prices of everything. But yeah. All right, let's jump into the comment section and see what you guys have to say today.
All right, moving on up. All right, Carl in San Diego today at Electrify America DC Fast Charger. 2 school bus drivers charging for 1.5 hours. SD G&E, assuming that's San Diego Gas and Electric Utility, didn't upgrade local grid fast enough to power the chargers the district installed. So sounds like they had to charge at the Electrify America and take up some spots. At least they could do that. And theoretically, they could probably charge at a slower charger overnight. But
yeah, that's right.
It's fraud. You're right, Fred. Okay.
I didn't say. I said that the word fraud is going to come up if they don't address this now.
And it did. John Kitchell, I guess your narrative has changed from Tesla may achieve full self-driving to Tesla probably won't with hardware 3. And so the focus is away from what Tesla will probably now achieve. Not sure I understand that.
Yeah, me neither.
All right. We got something from X. Adaptive cruise control lane assist is level 2. These are level 2 controls, I should say. The features are considered level 2 ADAS.
Yeah. Right now, if supervised for self-driving is considered level 2.
All right. Regarding crashes under FSD and adverse conditions, I'd like to see evaluation as to whether these accidents would have happened as often with humans driving. Continues.
I mean, yeah, definitely low visibility conditions affect humans too. There's no doubt. But the idea is more like, with Tesla's system, driver monitoring system, and changeover between automatic input and manual input, is that does Tesla handles this transition well if the system is degraded? Like, should Tesla be able to let you know, hey, you should probably take over now because I'm not good at handling this situation? Tesla does that right now, but maybe doesn't do it well enough that it causes accident. I think that's more where NHTSA is going with this.
All right, and then he says, I'd love to see better than human, but I don't expect perfection from my computers. I don't know what to say there. You want to not die, I think, probably, right? Sylvian says, still waiting for my normal Cybertruck. I meant the foundation one, all-wheel drive in my case.
I mean, in Canada, Sylvain's in Canada, and we still have only the foundation series in Canada.
Dan Overstay, the 500-mile range at the Cybertruck reveal is the reason I put down a deposit. He continues, I'm not buying a Cybertruck with less than 450-mile range.
Well, you could buy a Cybertruck with the extended battery pack that supposedly is going to come by the end of the year. I don't see it yet.
So that guy with the empty comments were weird emojis and a pink anime girl holding a heart and a small animal giving a thumbs up. Okay. That's what we need. All right. Carl says you're in charge of autopilot, the worst promotion ever.
I mean, Ashok was already in charge of the software for autopilot and full self-driving. So it's more like You've been doing so good that now you're a VP of that.
It's a punishment. Now you're screwed. All right. We're talking about 100 amps at 240 volts. I think that was the backup power.
Oh yeah.
All right. Carl says no one should expect to buy and use the Cybercab personally. If they ever build it and it's actually profitable to operate as a taxi, Tesla will run them as a company and not allow competition. I actually had that same thought. Like, why would Tesla sell these things to people when they could just run their own Tesla network and cars?
It makes no sense. Like the whole thing that I mean, like, you're gonna be like a shepherd with your sheep and take care of them and all that. And we're gonna have a whole automated system with wireless chargers and automated cleaning system for our truck and everything. And then you're gonna have to compete with us. Like it doesn't make sense. Like
No.
I don't get it at all.
Yeah, and we know if Tesla can make money off of it, they're not gonna make competition for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it would be kind of like investing. I don't like it. I don't think it's happening. Let's see. Anton Gran, let's remember what happened with Model 3. It opened up the order books in the US 12 months after the first deliveries. 30,000 cars were delivered with only mid-high specs. And it did pretty well after that. That's true.
Fair. Different conditions though, market wise. Not as much competition as the Cybertruck has.
Not as polarizing of an appearance. And
yeah, and not Elon Musk going on the campaign trail for Trump at the same time, spending more time making rallies for Trump than presentation for Tesla.
Oop.
Right, okay.
So we get it a year from now. Cool. Meanwhile, Edison is hauling logs. What is that? Hauling logs. I don't know about that.
Okay. He's comparing the Hummer EV, the Sierra Denali EV to the Hummer EV, which they are different design but same powertrain and a lot of similar features. Yeah, it is a little bit more expensive though. I think the Hummer, but not that much. Very similar actually.
It's pricey, but it's nice and it's got a convertible.
Mm.
All right, one Denali EV equals 400 e-bikes. All right, that's probably true. All right, we're getting a little bit chatty here in the comments.
But one Denali can carry 400 e-bikes over a few trips, while 400 e-bikes will never be able to carry a Denali.
That's like the duck. Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Crabwalk. Should I buy a Rivian or the GMC? No interest in Cybertruck.
Well, Seth is going to be able to tell you that in a few weeks.
Yeah, that'll be a good thing.
I mean, the Rivian is cheaper too. Like, it's smaller,
significantly.
It
is smaller,
cheaper.
I think it's a little faster off the line too.
Mm-hmm.
But not as big. Obviously, if you need to haul a lot of stuff, it's going to be better. Bigger battery, I would say more luxurious interior. You should try both though.
Yeah, they're kind of a little bit of different audience, I guess. Different
multifunction tailgate. Market. That's another.
Yeah, that's GMC has that. Pretty cool.
Too bad Fisker didn't release a truck I could buy for free now. I actually saw a Fisker whatever Ocean for sale nearby, like somewhere in my town, for $20,000.
Still expensive. What was it? It was like $70,000 new?
I think it was less. I think it was like 60 or 50 or something.
I thought they hadn't really delivered those one yet.
All right. Sylvian's in your neighborhood. You went to Trois-Rivières and Ottawa back and forth with our Silverado, 660 kilometers.
Yeah, the range is insane on that thing.
You have to be a card-carrying optimist to buy a Lucid while understanding their financial straits.
You have to be confident that the Saudis will keep financing them for a while, which honestly I am. Like, I think
it's nothing
especially
to them.
Since they have the factory there, and Saudi Arabia has been clear about wanting to transition from the oil economy to a sustainable economy. And one of the way they need to do that, they need to have jobs there that are not linked to oil. In Lucid, that I would assume is their first electric vehicle factory, even though I know that it's kind of limited in terms of factory. It's not like, it's more like similar to what Tesla had in the Netherlands, like for the Model S and X at first, but still is. And I would assume that it would expand. They want it to succeed, so they cannot have their first EV factory fail in Saudi Arabia, I think. So I think they will keep financing it for a while at least.
All right, last question. The Robotaxis they showed at the event seemed very unfinished and poorly built. It looked like they mocked them up a few weeks before just to have something to show. What are your thoughts? I mean, I would say immediately, like, these were not obviously production vehicles. They did mock them up probably a few days before the event just to have something to show.
The weirdest thing, like, I thought they looked good. I thought they looked pretty good. The weirdest thing about it, I have to admit, were the wheels, which I thought looked good at first. But if you look closer, so it's a full mag on this, flush with the tire. But to make it like look like low profile tires, they were not low profile tires. They were regular tires. But the gold finish of the mag, they painted gold on the rim of the tire, which is ridiculous because that will go away with time. I mean, I don't personally know rubber paint that will last like that long. So
yeah,
it's that looked pretty bad. Like when you it looked good on pictures, really, because you cannot see it. You have to get closer to see it. But if you're like a few feet from the car and you look at that, you're like, what is this guy thinking? But it's still a prototype, so it's not that big of a deal. I would be way more concerned about the fact that the thing that full self-driving is happening in California and Texas next year, and that this thing will launch a year after that without a steering wheel. So you need full self-driving to work there. Like, that's the bigger concern than how close to a production version they showed.
So if you had to bet, what are the odds that that thing comes out with a steering wheel?
Well, I think it will. I don't see it coming out with a steering wheel. I just don't see it coming out without a steering wheel in 2026 or 2027. Based on Tesla's progress right now, because Tesla did roughly a 2x improvement in miles between disengagement in the last 3 years, and now it needs 1,000x by next year. Like, I've seen no evidence of Tesla being capable of doing that so far. I wish they could. I don't see it. So yeah, but launching the vehicle anyway, but with a steering wheel, would be like Elon admitting defeat.
Right.
I don't see that happening. And as far as I know, they killed the vehicle program. There was supposed to be a vehicle program based on the same platform, with a steering wheel, with pedals and everything, and they killed that, replaced it with Model 2, Model Y. So if that's not happening, I don't see Tesla like switching around and like putting a steering wheel and pedals in this. I don't see it happening. So yeah, no, I don't see that happening.
All right, we got a couple last second comments.
Yeah.
Michelin used to sell red wall tires, but agree Cybercab is just a distraction. And then Waymo has a steering wheel, but no driver to grab it.
Yeah. So Waymo's operates very differently than Tesla's self-driving effort. All right. Well, we already been going for more than an hour, so I appreciate every single one of you that's still listening right now. Thank you. If you do enjoy the show, please give us a like, a thumbs up, a subscribe. All these things help the show a ton. We appreciate when you do. And thanks to Bluetti, and thanks to All Set for sponsoring the show this week. And we're going to see you same time, same place next week.